Earlier this January, my family took a short trip and stopped by my cousin's house to stay for a few days. Coincidentally, those were the exact days when his house was undergoing some renovations to prepare for the Lunar New Year. Most of the work involved repainting the walls and adding a few more light fixtures to make the space look more elegant, brighter, and airier. But just a few days later, things started to go wrong. One of his kids got into a traffic accident and ended up with a broken leg. Then, his wife was scammed out of a large amount of money after buying cosmetics online. Witnessing these unfortunate events unfold one after another, I decided to walk around the house. That is when I noticed something. The reason his family fell into such a streak of bad luck might actually lie in a particular spot in the house. According to Feng Shui, the southern area of a home is supposed to remain calm and undisturbed, but in his case, that was exactly where he chose to do renovations, repainting, and installing a bunch of new lights. As a result, the energy flow in that area was stirred up, which could have triggered a series of misfortunes. Besides that, there are several other spots in the house that should remain absolutely still throughout the year 2026. I have summarized all of them in this video. Let us dive in and take a closer look. But before we get started, if there is something you would like to say to yourself or send as a message to your loved ones, feel free to leave it in the comments below. And now, let us begin. To truly understand why certain areas of the house need to remain still, let us take a moment to look at the root of the issue. Why is the year 2026 considered a time of intense fire energy, making it easy for that energy to be triggered? Once you grasp the nature of fire in this year, you will see that some directions in the house can easily lead to disruptions, even from the slightest disturbance. The year 2026 is called an extreme fire year because it contains multiple layers of fire energy when viewed through the heavenly stems, earthly branches, and the cyclical patterns of flying star Feng Shui. At its core, 2026 is the year of the fire horse. In the five-element system, the heavenly stem aligns with yang fire, while the earthly branch corresponds to the horse, also a fire element. When fire appears in both, it creates what is known as double fire. This makes life move faster, people act more impulsively, decisions become rushed, and the environment reacts more strongly to intense light, heat, or constant noise. The second layer comes from the energy cycle, running from 2024 to 2043, known in flying star Feng Shui as Period 9. This period is tied to the Li trigram and fire energy. At the start of a new cycle, things accelerate, media spreads faster, new trends rise quickly, but it also brings more tension and emotional clashes. With a double fire year like 2026, landing right at the beginning of Period 9, the fire energy becomes even more intense in daily life. The third layer is about when the year's energy becomes active. In many Feng Shui schools, the new year starts at the beginning of spring. In 2026, this falls on February 4, depending slightly on time zone. That is why some people who renovated in late January may have felt fine, but once February began, problems popped up and their homes started to feel more unsettled. When fire is strong in both heavenly stem and time cycle, certain home areas need to stay calm. That means no major renovations like drilling or demolition, and no harsh lighting or constant noise in sensitive spots. This helps stabilize your home's energy and reduces unexpected disruptions. In order to maintain stable energy in your home, which helps wealth and good luck gather and stay longer, you need to know which areas should be kept quiet. First location, south direction. In 2026, the south is widely considered the most sensitive area that should remain calm. That is because, in the year of the horse, the Tai Sui, also known as the Grand Duke Jupiter, is positioned in the south 2 sector. between 172.5 degrees and 187.5 degrees. At the same time, the 5 yellow star also flies to the south in the flying star chart for 2026. When these two factors overlap in the same direction, most recommendations advise avoiding any intense activities in the south to reduce risks caused by activating such a sensitive spot. Additionally, the 5 yellow star is associated with the earth element, while the south belongs to the fire element. In the 5 elements theory, fire strengthens earth, like fire burning things down to ash and soil. So, when the south is influenced by the 5 yellow star, adding even more fire traits to that spot, like installing overly bright lights or turning it into a focal point, is often discouraged. The goal is to keep this area as stable as possible and avoid overstimulating it in 2026. Therefore, if you are planning renovations in 2026, you should avoid heavy impact work in the south, like drilling, demolition, long-term remodeling, or structural changes, especially if carried out over several consecutive days. Even if you are not renovating, you should reduce long-term noise and vibration in the southern part of the house, such as loudspeakers, fixed vibrating equipment, or noisy appliances. Always keep this area tidy, clean, and undisturbed to help the energy in your home stay balanced. Second location, north direction. Directly opposite the south is the north, and in most annual Feng Shui documents for 2026, this area is labeled as the year breaker, or the direct clash position with Tai Sui. For the year of Bingo 2026, the year breaker falls in the North 2 sector between 352.5 degrees and 7.5 degrees. The annual guidance recommends keeping this North 2 sector calm and avoiding prolonged disturbances because this is the conflict axis of the year. At the same time, many Feng Shui sources also place the 3 killings in the north direction in 2026. This makes it a highly sensitive area, and if you carry out aggressive work there like demolition or heavy drilling, it can lead to a series of small issues and one problem after another. That is why many 2026 Feng Shui charts advise keeping the north area stable and undisturbed. For the north, keeping it quiet means lowering the volume and limiting time if the area is frequently noisy, like with speakers, televisions, or vibrating machines. If you plan to remodel, think twice before doing heavy structural work in the north. According to 2026's energy map, this zone is under double pressure from both the year breaker and the 3 killings. There is also a classical Feng Shui principle tied to the 3 killings, which says, it is okay to face it, but not to sit with your back to it. In other words, during a year when the 3 killings fall in a certain direction, people are more cautious about placing key structures or relying heavily on that direction. So, if your house is positioned with its back facing north, what Feng Shui calls sitting north, then major construction or groundbreaking projects are best avoided in 2026 to reduce risks in operations and progress. This is a way to manage risk based on annual energy, not superstition. Third location, northwest direction. According to the 2026 Flying Star chart, the northwest is where the number 2 black star, also called the illness star, flies in. Many 2026 Flying Star sources highlight this clearly and advise that the northwest should be treated gently because the illness star is associated with fatigue and health issues that can arise when the area is overly disturbed. For the northwest, pay attention to the Qian sector in the Bagua map, which is often associated with the father, the head of the household, and older men in the family. That is why many 2026 charts emphasize the importance of maintaining a stable lifestyle and paying extra attention to the health of older men if their bedroom, workspace, or main entrance falls in the northwest. So for 2026, the northwest should be kept dry, well ventilated, and calm. If you plan to renovate, avoid anything that causes strong vibrations or long-term changes like wall cutting, demolition, or major remodels. If this is a bedroom, limit the use of electronic devices that make loud sounds, such as speakers with high volume over long periods. When the number 2 black star is present, flying star documents usually advise reducing prolonged noise and shaking in that area to keep the environment more balanced. And here is something many people overlook. When the illness star is present, the northwest tends to feel sluggish and more draining. So this direction works better with a steady, uncluttered routine. Just keeping it clean, dry, and free of constant activity helps keep the household more stable. For families with elders or breadwinners who spend a lot of time in this space, maintaining a peaceful, airy northwest area can help them feel less tired in their daily lives. 4th location, west direction. According to the 2026 flying star charts, the west is where the number 3 jade star flies in. In flying star Feng Shui, this star is often linked with arguments, misunderstandings, gossip, and verbal conflicts. Some yearly analyses even warn that if disputes drag on too long, they could escalate into legal or administrative problems. When viewed through the 5 elements in flying star Feng Shui, the number 3 jade star belongs to the wood element. But in 2026, fire is strong, and when wood meets fire, it tends to ignite more quickly and react more intensely. That means if the west becomes a highly active or noisy area, the issues associated with this star, like turning minor problems into heated arguments, are more likely to occur, along with tension in family or business relationships. So if your TV or sound system is placed in the west, avoid playing them at high volume for many hours. If you plan to decorate, it is also advised to limit items that stir up activity, such as aquariums, mini waterfalls, water features, or dense plants right in the west. These elements can make the area too dynamic, which can increase talking and conflict. Keeping the west clean, softly lit, and low traffic is a simple way to maintain balance in the home throughout 2026. When this area is quiet, things like damaged reputations from gossip, household disputes, or tension from hot tempers tend to noticeably decrease. But aside from keeping sensitive areas calm, we should also enhance and decorate the auspicious zones in the house to boost overall balance and help energy move smoothly and gather more easily. Once the sensitive areas have been settled, the next step is to activate the lucky spots based on the 2026 annual Flying Star Feng Shui chart. These favorable areas should be used often, kept tidy, and moderately lit, because spaces with regular activity tend to maintain steady energy, making it easier for good fortune to accumulate. According to the most common 2026 charts, the recommended auspicious areas include the center of the house with star 1, the east with star 8, the southeast with star 9, the northeast with star 4, and the north with star 6. First, the center of the house. Star 1, white. This area represents the heart of the home and works best when kept neat and softly lit. The center should stay clear and open. Avoid turning it into a storage spot for boxes or clutter. All it takes to activate this space is a clean walkway, smooth surfaces, and gentle lighting. If you want to add a simple touch, try placing a glass vase with clean water or a light-colored object, like a piece of white quartz, to make the space feel light and pleasant. Second, the East Star 8 white. In the 2026 flying star charts, the East is seen as a great area for stable, long-term financial growth. A simple way to activate it is to keep the East corner tidy and give it a sense of grounding. You could place ceramic or porcelain items, a small clay jar with a few coins inside, or a decorative item in earth tones like brown. What matters most is that this area is consistently cared for. Do not let it turn into a messy corner that gets ignored. Third, the Southeast Star. 9. Purple. During period 9, Star 9 is often associated with good news, promotions, and positive expansion. That is why the southeast corner should be clean, warm, and gently lit. To lightly activate it, you could place a fresh flower arrangement or add a small decorative item in red or purple for a pop of color. Avoid using overly intense lighting or spotlighting this area for extended periods. Fourth, the Northeast, Star 4 Green. The Northeast is commonly linked with studying, concentration, and intellectual work. To activate it correctly, turn it into a study or reading corner. You could set up a desk, bookshelves, or place a small plant like lucky bamboo. The key is to keep this corner bright enough and clutter-free so it matches the rhythm of focused living. Fifth, the North Star 6, White. Some 2026 flying star charts show Star 6 positioned in the north, which is connected with support and helpful people. However, the north is also one of the areas to avoid disturbing in 2026. So the safest approach is to keep the north tidy and stable. If you still want to decorate, you can place items that promote organization, like file boxes, a small shelf, or a neat metallic object to create a disciplined vibe. Try not to make this area noisy or involve it in long-term construction. In short, when you adjust the directions in your house to match these energy patterns, your home becomes more stable overall, and goals, like attracting wealth, building strong relationships, or improving academic focus, will have more room to grow. As we can see, 2026 is a year full of intense fire energy. That means things happen more quickly, more clearly, and reactions tend to be stronger. This creates opportunities for those who can seize the moment, but it also requires a solid foundation in both your home and your way of living. Recognizing which areas in your living space need to be kept calm helps your family proactively maintain balance throughout the year. And once those areas are settled, the home becomes a calmer place, daily life flows more smoothly, stress levels go down, and decisions around money and work become more focused and confident. Before you go, if you have any questions about Feng Shui tips to help your home feel more lucky and harmonious, feel free to drop them in the comments below. We will go over them together in upcoming videos. For now, goodbye and see you next time.